Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Finance Bible podcast.
We are your hosts as always, Oscar and Zeke, and please note that nothing in this podcast should ever be considered as personal financial advice.
And if personal financial advice is what you are after, then please get in touch so that we can connect you with the correct professionals to make sure that the job is done correctly.
Enjoy the show.
Today we're just going to be talking about the interest rate. Currently it's gone up to 4.35%. Don's actually in Sydney at the moment. The internet in Sydney, as we know, can be a little bit give and take. Optus likes to run amok, apparently. Great news. I'm not in Sydney. My internet is working. But Don, welcome.
Mate, thank you as always. Yes, I am in Sydney and literally the first couple of hours getting the lappy out. We've already had to close this recording once because the audio just doesn't work, but let's just hope we get a bit of stabilization for this one. Cup day the other week, or this week actually on Tuesday, there was a great horse race, but also a not so great announcement by the RBA. It was the first move under the new leadership of Michelle Bullock, raising the cash rate by 0.25% to now being 4.35%. How do you feel about that? You did mention that you thought this was going to happen, but how do you feel about it? What do you reckon the factors of the increase actually were?
I mean, firstly, how do I feel about it? I think it's a little bit unnecessary, to be honest. For those dodgeball fans out there, I know you've got a good counter to that about things being sterile and you liking the taste, but that's not what we're talking about here. So basically, I think it wasn't really necessary. The rate rises that we've had are pretty high. You know, we've gone from a 0.10 back in, I think it was May 2022. We're now to 4.35 about 18 months later. The difference that has on people and the impact that has, I'll get into in a moment. But what do I think contributed to it? I think a lot of people are still spending. I think fuel going up so much is kind of a fixed cost that everyone does have to pay if they're driving. I think that's something that regardless of what pressures we have on us and what interest rate rises they do, that people are still going to have to pay, right? That contributes to inflation. You've got other things as well going on. When we're lifting the interest rates, investors and homeowners and stuff like that might have a tenant or they might have someone housing with them, they're going to bump up the rent because the payments are higher. Them bumping up the rent increases the spending of the people living there, which in turn contributes to inflation again. It's kind of a double-edged sword when you do that. I think at this point in time, you've got Black Friday coming up, you've got Christmas coming up. January is a big holiday time for everyone in Australia, probably all around the world, to be fair. So there's a lot of different things going on in the market at the moment. I think all of that's a contributor. They might be making a bit of a statement saying don't go too nuts during Black Friday, don't go in excess during Christmas, and chill out a bit in the holidays. Don't be a nutcase.
You should listen to that, mate. Don't be a nutcase over Christmas because normally you are in that period.
I will say
It's lost for words.
I will say, man is currently sober. And I've toned down a little bit on the drinking side of things. So I may not entirely be a nutcase over Christmas. We'll have to wait and see.
Just clarifying for everyone out there, when Zeke says he's currently sober, he wasn't an alcoholic. He just used to drink. He used to just enjoy drinking on the weekend. But, mate, that's a big milestone.
Oh, thank you.
But I also think Michelle Bullock's first kind of main announcement in the role, I think having the rate rise is also showing that she wants to make a stance saying that, yes, I'm going to increase the cash rate. But I do think this is probably one of the last hikes we will have. You the same with that, mate? What do you reckon? A few more hikes coming down? What do you think?
I think it'll stay stagnant for a little bit till we get through the period where it is very expensive in the year. I think that come maybe February, March kind of thing, we might see a little drop. I hope to see that anyway. The reason being is basically we were at the lowest we've ever been in history, right? Like May 2022, 0.10. That's very, very low. So the average loan size in Australia is roughly $580,000. So if you were sitting on that kind of rate at that point in time, then you would have been paying you would have been paying about $1,445 per month, or weekly $334 per week. How good would that be? Take me back to those days.
Mm.
Or
Well, you took
17,400,
advantage
give
of
or
those
take,
days.
per year.
You did take advantage of those days buying your first investment property.
Absolutely. So yeah, they were good days, and that was very affordable. Like $17,400 a year, absolute bargain.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're at the highest we've been in what, 12 years, I think. Don't quote me on it. Per week, you're paying 668, which is a literal double. Per month, about 2,900, again a literal double. And per year, about 35 grand, give or take, which is again a double. So it's gone up 100%.
Yeah.
If the difference in that is about 17 grand per year, how much money were you able to spend on other things back only a year ago? 1 year ago, you had an extra 17 grand per household that you could spend on things, and it's now going to repaying a mortgage. Is that affordable for everyone? I know a lot of people that can't sit there and magically whip another 17 grand out of their tuchus and
No,
go
look,
ahead and pay that.
probably 80% of the population can't do that because especially families with kids, school fees, get extracurricular activities, that extra money at the end of the day is basically impossible for some families. So this rate rise is just going to impact a lot more people, especially with the Christmas time coming up. It is probably their worst nightmare, and especially also if you lost your bet on the Melbourne Cup, because you could have put a bet on, assuming the rate rise is going to happen, hoping to look after your mortgage repayments. But if you lost, like majority of us did, I did. Tough luck. But the good news is we have done a post about a few different ways how you can possibly help yourself through the current cash rate hike. One of the main ones is, which a lot of people are doing, mortgage brokers we work with have told us this as well. A lot of clients are calling up their brokers, their banks, trying to just see what they can do for their interest rate. It doesn't hurt just calling up and asking if there's any way they can reduce it, or even restructure the loan, because this is the time when it may come into handy the most, especially for those families and individuals who are really struggling. And a lot of people as well, because of this, are having to sell their properties. So for investors, it actually may be quite a good time to jump into the market for some good properties, and also help you with the tax side of things, which we'll go into a bit later.
Before I mention a couple of different things that you should be doing, which is pretty similar to what Don said. Firstly, I want to highlight the difference over a 30-year loan term, which I think is absolutely absurd. The banks are having the best time of their life. On the 0.10 back in May 2022, over a 30-year loan term, your total interest repayment would have been roughly 41 grand, using that $580,000 loan example. So 40 grand of interest. That's absolutely bugger all, right? I mean, 40 grand is a lot of money, but in comparison to now, where it's $422,000 of interest over a 30-year loan term, it's 1,000% increase. That is absolutely cool.
Insane.
But yeah, what can you do? I mean, the two first things that I'd be doing, same as Don, I'd be calling the bank and saying, hey, please do me a better rate. Please, please, please. Chances are they will.
I'll do anything.
Beg and plead. But the second option is call up your mortgage broker or professionals like ourselves and say, hey, here's the rate I'm on. Here's my loan. Here's a breakdown of my finances. Is there a possibility that I can refinance my debt to another lender and get a better rate? Chances are you certainly can in this market. I'd say in the last 15 years, it's never been more important to take those two steps today.
And that also comes back to having the right professionals in your corner who are proactive with that. So if you have a mortgage broker or a professional like ourselves, and obviously they've seen the rate rise, if they can call you before you've taken the time out of your day and calling you and say, hey, this has happened, this is what we can possibly do, that's someone you want to be with for your professional journey in the investing and the home loan space. So finding the right team is vital. Another, you mentioned refinance, you mentioned speaking to the broker. If you don't have enough money to pay your repayments now. What about if you jump into a side hustle? It can be any form of side hustle, whether it generates, $50 a week to 150, $200 a week. Could be Uber Eats, could be a bit of Uber driving, literally whatever it is, just selling off marketplace. Every cent and every dollar will help you in times like this if you are struggling. So it may only be like a 1 to 2 hour shift on Uber Eats a week, but something like that will give you an extra $100 a week to put towards your mortgage repayments if you are in the position that you can't actually really afford it. So you got to kind of think outside the box and think of what you can do as opposed to being a bit upset with the recent news, because there is a lot of different factors out there for side hustles.
Yeah, side hustles are very important to do in a time like this. Get into them. There's so many out there, like Dom just said. Stuff like menu logging
For myself,
is that easy.
I just have to jump in there for myself. Like, you may find me doing a bit of Uber Eats one day a week. I might be dropping off some grilled burgers to your doorstep just to get some extra cash coming in, because why not? You may as well. Zeke, you're the same sometimes.
Yeah, occasionally you'll catch me doing it too, and what a pleasant surprise that would be, mind you. You go to the door to get your food, and it's done all right. What a day! Before we move on, I just want to clarify as well. In those calculations I was doing earlier in relation to how much you would have been repaying based on the cash rate, please note that that is based on the actual cash rate. Obviously, banks' interest, they add stuff on top of that. Like, they weren't doing 0.10% loans in May. The interest difference, which is the actual important part of what I was saying, is what it is. I just wanted to clarify that and make sure no one was out here thinking that people were actually getting loans at 0.10%.
It is what it is. What it is, what it is.
Oh, a bit of Joe Biden. It is what it is, because he who is who he is.
I love
Such a
it.
good line.
Another way, it's a perfect line. There may be a plane in the background you may hear or you may not hear, which is fine. But another factor is you can also look to purchase an investment property, as bizarre as that may sound for some people. But this can really help you with your mortgage repayments, offering possible positive cash flow properties, a bit of annual tax aid, boosting your spare change. So this can help pay down your home quicker, get a bit of a tax refund at the end of the year, and ultimately build your asset base as well. So something to think about if you are looking for like a capital growth strategy, which you want to sell down the track to extinguish some debt, or more of a cash flow strategy for future and just building that up for retirement. But that can help people who are in a position to use possible equity in the existing home or have a bit of savings if you haven't gone into the home or the property market yet. It's a couple different ways to look into the investment property realm, and obviously everyone's different, so personalized strategies are a must. But generally speaking, if you find the right property and it works for you and your cash flow, it can definitely help you with these mortgage repayments.
Yeah, especially those people in the higher income brackets for the investment property thing, because the tax will help you a lot. In a time like now, any money you can get is good money. It's money you need. It's money you want. So if you can reduce tax and have more money to pay that mortgage or to make sure you're not stressed day by day, that's something you should think about. I think that's
Could not agree more.
about all for today.
Yeah, that's it. Short and sharp episode. I just want to take the moment to give a quick shout out to Council Bluffs in Iowa. We have seen quite a few listeners have actually come from Iowa in the last month and a half. So thank you. Whatever you're doing out there, spreading the Finance Bible word. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wherever you are in the world listening to this, thank you. Make sure if it is on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you subscribe to it and give us a rating. Because the more subscribers, the more ratings, the better guests we can actually get on these podcasts. And the better guests we get on the podcast, the better the show is for you. So make sure you do that. Spread the word. If this podcast episode may help someone you know who is struggling with the current rate hike, send it to them and give us a follow on Instagram if you've got that platform as well.
All right, perfect. Catch you all next time.
Ciao.
Guys, as always, if you've liked the podcast, please give us a review, jump on that 5-star wagon, share it around with your mates, and just give it the big old tick.